Hello friends, welcome to Tech Harvesting. In this video, we are going to have a look at how we can create animations with CSS. Altogether, in this video, we're going to create 3 types of animations, which will be shown just a few seconds later. And before we start, make sure you subscribe to my channel for receiving more awesome videos like this one. I create a lot of videos on web development and other topics also. So like this video if you find it helpful, and let's get started. So first, let's have a look at what we're going to be making throughout this video. So the first thing we'll be making is the small transition. So when we hover over the square right here, you will get the background color to change to a dark blue and the text will change to white, and it's a small fade in animation. It's called a transition. I'll explain about that more later. So that's the first thing. After you have the small thing right here, which will keep changing the color by itself, you don't have to hover or anything. So it will change from red to black and then go back to red, move to black. It keeps on going forever. So I'll show you how to make animations loop forever. And last but not least, we'll make this small animation right here, which does a small spin, stops, and then completes the spin. So it goes 360-degree all around. So let's jump into VS Code and start writing the code. So now let's go ahead and create our files. So first I'm going to create an index.html, and I'll fill in the boilerplate code by giving it an exclamation in there. And the title, I'll just make it CSS animations and transitions. Cool. Next, I'm just going to create 3 divs for the 3 kinds of animations that we're going to be doing. So dot square, so that's just an emmet abbreviation, which helps us to create multiple HTML elements with 1 line of code. It just expands it. It's a feature built into VS Code. You can use it always whenever you need. It's very useful. And I'm going to create a new file too, styles.css, and I'm going to link it up in here. So let's do a link tag, and I'm going to make it styles.css. So for the square, let's go ahead and write down some code. In here, I'm going to go ahead and first reset the CSS. So I'm going to have a padding of 0, a margin of 0, a box sizing of border box. And now time for the square. So I'm going to select all the squares with the class selector. And then over there, I'm going to do a few stuff. So first, I'm going to give the height of 200 pixels. I'm going to have border dash radius of about 20 pixels. Now let's go into the browser and see that. So for doing that, what you'll need to do is to go here. You have to right click and open with live server. If you don't have the extension, I highly recommend it. It's very useful. Go to extensions and search for live server, and you can see this is the one that I'm using. Okay, so I'll just head to my browser and you can see that is empty page. So we have the square and all this stuff. So just because it's not displaying, that's because the background color is white. You can just change the background color to something like aqua or something. You'll be able to see them. So you can see there are 3 of them. Now you may not be able to see perfectly because all of them are together. There's no spacing between. So I'm just gonna add a margin of about 10 pixels, and let's also give a width of 200 pixels. You can see now all these are aligned perfectly. So now we can go ahead and start with our first transition, which is the simple hover animation. So for doing that, I'm just going to create a new class for here for the first one, square-hover. So what should happen is, for the beginning, square-hover is just a square, a div in our case, and we're going to go ahead and change the background color. So first I'm just going to give a default background color. I'll just copy it from here. You can grab all these from the GitHub source code. I just got a color right here. So if you return to our browser, you'll see this color has been applied to this div, and we can return back to our code. In here we can do the pseudo selector for the hover. So whenever we're gonna hover on this square, we want to do something. So you can do dot square dash hover colon hover. What this is, all the CSS rules that we're going to apply inside the selector is going to be applied when we hover over the element. So we can just copy that, and instead of this background, I'll just grab another one right here. I'm telling you, you can grab all these from the GitHub source code that I'm going to be linking in the description. So we got that. I'm going to paste it right here. So now if you return, you'll see that it happens, but there's no animation, which is what we're going to be doing now. So for animating that, we are going to go ahead and add a property onto this square called the transition property, which means you can create simple animations with the transition property. We'll move on to keyframe animation soon, but for now, the beginning, for the first square, we'll be using transitions. So for creating a transition, you use the transition property, transition, and you're gonna give the type of transition. Now there are lots of types of transition, like linear, ease in, ease out, ease in, out, a lot of them. For now, I'm just going to show you the ease transition. Now we are going to give the time, how long should it take for this time to, this transition to complete. So in my case, I'm just going to give something like 0.2 seconds. Let's go for 0.4 seconds. That's much better. So what will happen is, when this transition is happening, it takes 0.4 seconds to complete. And we're also going to have give the properties in which this transition apply. So for example, we want to change this transition only in the background color. So only in the background color this transition should take place. Then what you'll be doing is to give background dash color here, and it will change only the background color. For now, there's also a keyword for all, which is what I'm going to be using just for now, which helps us to do this on all. So if we have text, it'll animate text also. So if I return here, if I hover now, you see there's a nice little animation. It's very slow, good. And we can again change the speed, we can change the type. So if I change this from ease to linear, you may not find much difference, but there is, you can see that, right? It goes more slower, like. And you can use the dev tools if you want. And if you inspect that one, the square, and go to the styles, I'll just bring that a bit up, and you can see this thing right here. This is the editor, so you can change the properties from linear to use this cubic bezier if you want. So you can see when you hover, it goes from fast, like from slow to fast. So you can change all those properties here. You can just copy this and paste it instead of the linear, but I'm just going to use linear for now. I'll probably switch back to ease. So you can see we get the simple transition. So that's the first one. Now I also want to show you another property called the transition dash property, which helps us to give multiple properties for transitioning. So for that, I'm just going to go here and give a text just for demonstration purposes. And in here, I'm just going to text align center. So now we don't want this to be all, so we want to do only on specific elements. For example, if we don't want it to be like when the page loads, it should come like this slowly. So when we hover over this, we want this text to turn white. For doing that, what you'll need to do is to remove this, add a transition dash property, and you can give special properties that you want. So for now, I want to animate my background color and also my color. Okay, so if I go here, it gets animated still, but the text not turning white. That's because you'll have to go here and change the color to white. So now if you go here, you can see that the text is changing white and it's going good. So now that's it for the first animation right here. We just had a small animation. It just, when we hover it, it changes the foreground color and the background color. And we learned about using the transition property and the transition property. So that's the first square. Next, we're going to go into a square which uses the animation property, and we will use keyframe animation to animate it. It'll go from red to black and go back to red. So let's do that right now. So back to VS Code, and I'm going to create a new class called square dash blink, because it's like a blinking animation. It turns from red to black, back to red, black, like that goes on. So for doing this, we're not going to be using the transition property. As I told, we'll be using the animation properties. There's animation name, animation iteration count, and a couple of properties like that. So first, I'm going to select the square dash blink, which is what we created right here, and then for that we are gonna apply some classes. Not classes, we're gonna apply some properties. First one is to give an animation dash name, which is a property which is used to specify the name of our animation. And to create our animation, we'll be using keyframes, which we'll do soon. First, I'll just get rid these things out of the way. So the name of our animation is gonna be blink. It's the blinking animation, and then we are gonna, or we can just make it color blink, which might make more sense. We're just blinking the color, right? So after that, we're gonna have the animation duration, animation dash duration, and this is how long this is gonna be. It's kind of similar to the transitions duration. We gave 0.4 seconds in here. So you can give how much ever you want here. For now, I'm gonna give 1 second. You could also give 1 millisecond, which is too fast. So I'm just gonna go for 1 second. You could change it. You can make it 0.1 seconds, which is like 100. No, it's like 1 millisecond actually. So that's simple. Next, you can go ahead and give the animation dash iteration dash count. Scroll down, you can see this is like how much times it should repeat the animation. So if you give something like 10, the animation will play 10 times, and once it's played, it will stop playing. So if you want it to be looping forever, you can give the infinite option, which is what we're going to be doing, and which means like it'll start, it'll turn the color to black, come back again, and do it all over again forever. So now let's create the animation color blink. So again, to create an animation, is the keyframes keyword, keyframes, and then you give the name of the animation. It should be same as the one you gave here, so color blink, and you do that. Instead of doing this, you could also use a snippet. You can use keyframes, and you give the name there, so color blink, if you want to do that. So what we're going to be doing is very simple right here. First, just write it down. I'll explain it to you right now. But first, you're going to give 0% and 100%. So 0% tells that when the animation is starting, and 100% tells that the animation is ending. So instead of using this, you could also use the keywords from and to, which means we start at these properties and end at these properties. So for this one, I'll just show you how to use from and to, and in the next animation that we begin doing, we'll use the percentage values. So we're gonna go from background color red to background color black. So it's very simple. When we start, we're gonna have a red background color, and when we end, we're gonna have a black background color, and since it's looping, it goes on forever. So now if I were to return here, you can see it happens. It just goes red to black, red to black. You can see, and you can of course make it much slower by increasing the time. You can see it's very slow now. It's twice slower than before, or you could even increase the time, for example 0.4, because it's too fast. So that's how you can use these animations with CSS. That's very simple. And after this, we're going to make this one rotate in a special manner, because it's going to be going slow first, and okay, the speed is going to be changing. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now to create the new animation, again I'm going to create a new class, square-spin. It's like a spinning animation actually. So back here, first we're going to create a square-spin class selector, and in here we're again going to give these properties. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. So this one, I actually want this to be a bit more longer, so I'm going to go for 5 seconds. You will see how it looks soon. And the name is going to be spin. I'll just change that. That's a bit too much. So 5 seconds should be good for this animation. I tried it out, and that's what I showed in the demo at the beginning. So now let's go ahead and create our animation. So add keyframes, spin. So that's going to be the name of our animation, and let us start. So first, since just like how we showed you last time, there's going to be 0%, 50%, 100%, so you can just go in the middle of the animation and make it look differently. So for rotating things, we use the transform property. So if you don't know, there's a property called transform, and you can rotate things with that, so you can give different degrees to make it rotate. So in here we can go for a 0% selector, and in here we're going to do a transform rotate and 0 DEG, which means this DEG stands for degrees. So at the beginning of the animation we want it to be straight, so erect, and it's not going to be rotated in any directions anyways. Next we want to go for 50%, and this time I'm going to rotate it a bit. We can go for about 120 degrees, and if you want, you can actually go and preview it on the browser right now. This is the one, so you can see it goes like that. It goes this side, that side, this side, that side. That's because we don't have 100% yet, so it's not completing fully. It went fully, but it came back to 0% in the other direction. So let's create 100%, and let's paste that in there. But this time we want to go for 360 degrees, which means all around. So if we start at 0 degrees, we go, when it's half, we want it just to be 120. If you made 180, then it's gonna go like a normal circle. When we make it 120, it's not gonna go fully, so slow first and then it goes fast. So that's how this animation is. It's very simple, but it's a bit more like different from the others. So you can see how it goes right now. So we have our 3 animations ready. Yeah, it was that simple to create animations in CSS. First one is just to hover and get that. Second one, we have that the flashing kind of animation, and the last one is just this rotating animation. So that was it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye friends.